Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Medina. Um, Nice to meet you, Ashford Elementary. Today, I will be talking about behaviorism. Let me go ahead and get to the slide. Okay. Okay, so today my topic is behavior analysis in children with mental disorders. So my name is Alyssa Medina. I'm a adolescent rehab specialist. I work with children ages 5 to 17 years old. I develop and maintain cooperative working relationships with community agencies, so occasional case management, ability to work with parents, providing skill training and guidance. So I don't only work with the kids, I work with the parents in understanding their child's diagnosis. Um, I maintain and manage treatment plans and current assessments as per regulatory requirements. What this means is that every 3 months, the child is provided a treatment plan in which they have different goals. So maybe a kid is suffering with anger issues. So in their treatment plan, it would be understanding their anger, using coping skills to help alleviate their anger, different things like that. A treatment plan is specific to the client. So I record the patient's progress through progress note documentation in a timely manner. Usually I provide a session to a child, and then the next day I do the note. So in the progress note, I just type how their mental status was, if they appeared neat, if their judgment was okay, and then what we did as the activity, how they responded to the activity, the progress that they've made, and the homework that I've given them. So homework would be like, use this coping skill within the next 10 days. And then the next time I see them, I would follow up and make sure that they use that coping skill. So the objective of this presentation is to help you all understand the diagnosis of behavioral issues in children, investigate a person's environment and influential peers. So as you know, what shapes us is our environment and our peers. It helps shift our behavior. Examine psychological disorders that can be treated by altering behavioral patterns. So like basically what my job is to help those children into healthy behavioral patterns and to help them cope with their diagnosis. And to identify behavioral cues in children. Often in the classroom, we see a child who is not able to contain their anger. We need to know how to address that, how to help them with it. So behavior analysis, otherwise known as behaviorism, is a study of human behavior through conditioning. So it's a learned process. It was founded by B.F. Skinner and gained its popularity from the 1920s to the 1960s. So many psychologists believe behavior should be studied instead of mental aspects. So it's not only what a person is thinking, it's how they act. You often hear the term apologize through your actions, not through words. I'm a firm believer in that as well. So the theorists of behaviorism are Edward Thorndike. He followed operant conditioning, and he had the puzzle box experiment with the cats. This taught the cats to navigate through a puzzle box to get a desired effect. He also talked about the law of effect, and we have Ivan Pavlov, which he, of course, did classical conditioning through his dog study. And basically this found that dogs were conditioned to produce saliva at the sound of a bell. So At first, they didn't even have an idea that the bell meant that they were getting treats until it was conditioned to them. And we have John B. Watson with classical conditioning with the Little Albert experiment. So the Little Albert experiment is they basically taught a baby a fear, and the fear was of white fluffy objects. At first, the baby didn't even he wasn't even fazed by the objects, but whenever a rat would come into the room, they would make a loud sound of metal striking steel, and it would startle the baby. So every time he would see a white fluffy object, he'd be like, "Oh no, no, that sound is coming," and he would, prepare for it. He would cry, and it was conditioned to him. And we have B.F. Skinner, of course, with operant conditioning. Um, he's often referred to as one of the founders of behaviorism. So we have many varieties of behaviorism. It's not just one general topic. There's a bunch of subcategories in behaviorism. So the first one I will be talking about is radical behaviorism from B.F. Skinner. So it says that a person's behavior can be understood with relations to their environment as it naturally occurs, meaning a person changes with their environment. We also have methodological behaviorism, and this was founded by John B. Watson. And he said that you study reality through behaviors. So he didn't even take a look at the mental status. He would just be like, oh, you know what, they're acting this way, and that's because of, that's their reality. So, and of course, I'll be talking about operant conditioning. This is a commonly known form of behaviorism. So behavior is modified by reinforcement or punishment. This is often, it's a voluntary action. So, and of course, this was taught by B.F. Skinner. So I read an article talking about teaching speech to an autistic child through operant conditioning. And this was a story about Peter. So basically, what they did with Peter, he was a 4-year-old who had an autism disorder. He was very defiant, oppositional. He didn't speak very well, and this is a common symptom in autistic children. They are kind of delayed in their speech. So Peter wasn't able to express himself vocally, but so that they were trying to teach him how to speak, but he wouldn't participate in his classes. So what they did was they set up a box. They put the teacher in one side, they put Peter in the other side. There was a wooden door that they separated them by. Every time the teacher would slide the door up, it would project light into Peter's side. Peter would see the light, he would be able to get candy, and then once the door shut, he was completely alone in the dark. Through this, Peter did not like isolation, he didn't like the darkness, so it kind of taught him to, behave himself, to act a certain way, to avoid being alone and isolated. He would behave. This eventually allowed him to be able to learn speech. And of course, we have classical conditioning by Ivan Pavlov. And there was another study conducted by Barnaby. It was the attitudes of children established by classical conditioning. So basically what they did, they had a class of 4th grade students. They divided them into 3 categories. One was the negative, one was the positive, and one was a neutral. Through this experiment, the 3 groups, they had the negative group, they would provide them with negative words. So this would be like dislike, pessimistic, sour, bitter, things like that. And then the positive side, they would have like happy, joyful, colorful, rainbow, words like that. And then a neutral, it would just be neutral words. So through this, they learned that the children who were presented with negative words, they kind of associated that and they started having negative attitudes. Same thing with positive. The positive, they had more positive attitudes, and then the neutrals, they just remained neutral. So they they found that this played a huge role on the mental status of the kids and how they behaved, just by presenting them a set of words. So, some common mental health symptoms in children, they often self isolate, meaning they just kind of go to a corner. They don't want to play with anyone, anxious, worried, or afraid. It's very rare to see a child that is anxious, worried, or afraid. It's not a common symptom in children that we usually see. We're used to seeing happy kids playing on a playground. Um, Another one is lack of self control. Often, kids with mental health symptoms, such as anger issues, autism, ADHD, they kind of don't know what self control is. They're very impulsive. So they kind of act without thinking. They don't think of consequences. They're not able to put a sequence together, a sequence of events together. It's kind of just, you know, I'm going to do this, but I don't know what's going to happen. Um, Sometimes these kids will have difficulty concentrating, withdrawals from friends in school. So, like I said, they kind of just self isolate. They don't want to play with their friends, negative thinking. And then another one is consistent, defiant, or aggressive behavior. So, it is common in most kids to see them at one point have defiant behavior. It's part of the learning process. But once you see it in a consistent manner, it kind of makes you raise your eyebrow. So, what should you do when you see these symptoms in a child? You should take note of the behavior. So, document it as much as you can because you never know. It could just be a one time thing or it could be an ongoing thing. Reach out to the child, see what's going on, try to get them to express what they're feeling. Um, if you are not a trusted source, like if for some reason they don't feel comfortable around you, they're shy, maybe they look at you with a lot of authority, refer them to someone they are more comfortable around. So it could be the counselor, the nurse, the lunch lady, anybody. Um, just make them comfortable to be able to communicate effectively. So some coping skills that I teach my kids is it's it's way easier than you think because anything that occupies your mind will help you. So stress balls. I've made stress balls with kids a lot. All you do is put slime in a balloon. You can put baking soda in a balloon, um, different kind of things in a balloon. Tie it up, and then it's like squishy, and it just it occupies your hands and it occupies the mind. Play-Doh. Play-Doh, it has many benefits, so you can get really creative with it. Create things. I mean, just even the sensory motor, it was just in your hand. Um, Drawing. Often I have my kids do self-portraits to help them with their self-esteem. You know, what do you like about yourself? Can you draw it for me? You like your eyelashes? Draw them really long, or you like your smile, make a big smile. You like your ears, put earrings on them. Um, Really exaggerate the features that they like about themselves to help them have a positive attitude. Breathing exercises. It's it's really important to teach children breathing exercises. You teach them and they might not seem like they're going to use it, but they will. So some breathing exercises I've taught my kids are the 5-finger breathing. This is how we do it. We hold out our hands and you go in and out. And you repeat it for all 5 of your fingers and you do it 3 times. Believe it or not, it helps. It allows you to visualize your breathing movements and your breathing patterns, and then just the repetition itself. Fidget toys. These are really popular to kids nowadays. I'm not sure if you all have seen them, but it looks like bubble wrap and it's a little rubber thing. And it's just the popping sensation that helps them. Um, Little rings, anything to occupy their hands if they're fidgety or if they, ADHD, they're constantly on the move, constantly on the move. So something that they can take to their desk, just pop bubbles for a little bit is going to help them a lot. Identifying triggers. This is easier for the older kids, kind of telling them what made you upset. And sometimes they'll say, I'm hungry, this kid hit me, um, things like that. Having them communicate what made them upset, what made them act that way will stick to their mind. They'll be like, okay, why did I act that way? Acknowledging warning signs. So often, warning signs of anger would be clenching your fists, furrowing your eyebrows, clenching your jaw, things like that. Asking them, what are your warning signs? What do you do when you're angry? Do you shake? Do you cry? Um, that way, once they start seeing their warning signs, they're able to be like, hey, I'm feeling this and I need help with it. And counting to 10. It's much like a breathing exercise. Just counting and occupying your mind will help you calm down and help the heartbeat go down. So communication strategies. These are also kind of coping skills, but it helps the children communicate what they're feeling. So as you can see, the thermometer, it's called the anger thermometer. So of course we know as the mercury goes up in a thermometer, it's hotter. So the higher um, the higher the mercury, the more mad the child is. So at the bottom, you see it's small, medium, and big. So small, it might be like, it bothers them. Medium, it's like, okay, this is your point. Like you need to practice a coping skill. And then the big is like, oh, you need to take a break. You need to go practice all your coping skills. And this will help a child really communicate what they're feeling without explicitly saying it, without, feeling the pressure of, well, what are you feeling? And why are you yelling? And, if you make it more creative and fun, they'll be able to communicate it better. And then you can see the how do you feel today worksheet. You can just ask the kid, how do you feel today? And then being able to picture it, they'll simply point at the little illustration they're feeling, silly, excited, surprised, shy, sad, angry. Like they'll be able to point at it. And just from that little gesture, you'll understand how they're feeling and you can go from there. So, in conclusion, most often than not, children will not communicate what they're feeling. It's something that we learn as we grow. A first grader is not going to be able to tell you that they're angry before they actually get angry. They're out of the blue, they're just going to be angry, and you're going to be wondering, why are you angry? They don't have the ability to express that, especially when they have a mental disorder. Um, Identify behaviors of a mental health condition. So, like we talked about, you know, if they're isolating, if they're impulsive, if they get distracted, things like that, kind of keep an eye for that. Integrate positive reinforcement, punishment, coping skills, and communication strategies. So, positive reinforcement when they do something good, tell them good job, give them a candy, um, allow them to do an activity they like. Um, Punishment, of course, taking the privileges away from something that they like. Coping skills, like we talked about, and communication strategies will help the child. And these here are my references. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Um, Again, this is a presentation in efforts to understand those children with mental health issues and being able to help them um, express themselves. And it makes our jobs easier, and it makes the kids' lives easier. And you never know, they'll carry on these techniques with them into their adulthood. Um, so yes, again, please let me know if you have any questions. I will be here for the remainder of the hour. Thank you.